Bavaria Direkt is the constantly growing online insurance brand of the largest public insurance group in Germany. Behind the traditional group is a dynamic financial service provider with the character of a startup and the security of a large corporation. Their speaker, Katharina Jessel, has had a career that spans over 20 years across multiple exciting industries. With job roles that have covered telecommunications, media services, and insurance, she has spent the last 13 years in the insurance industry at leading players such as Direkt, Allianz, and now Bavaria Direkt. Interviewing Katharina today is Esther Prax, an innovation strategist, empathetic change driver, and hands-on doer. With 7+ years of experience, she is passionate about working with corporate shakers across industries to challenge the status quo, unleash wild ideas, build and scale innovation programs, communities, and hubs, as well as launch new products and services customers love. So next on stage, please welcome Bavaria Direkt and InsurTech Munich.
Fantastic. Thanks for the great introduction to the ITHM team. We're super, super excited to be here today talking about the future of insurance distribution. And I think Katharina was already introduced a little bit by the video, but Katharina, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit more to the audience? Tell us a little bit about your role and why you're particularly excited to talk about the future of distribution here today.
Yeah, thank you, Esther. So, hello, everybody, also from my side here. Thank you for being on stage with you, Esther. And for introduction, my name is Katharina Jessel. I have two different roles at the Versicherungskammer Bayern. One role is I'm responsible for sales, marketing, pricing, and product at the Bavaria Direkt, which is the direct insurer of the Versicherungskammer Bayern. And my second role is I'm responsible for sales and marketing in our health insurance part of the Versicherungskammer Bayern. And actually, I have to say, all of them are basically distributed about all the different channels in sales. And my history is actually in insurance, actually pretty much built about, I would say, almost every sales channel the insurance industry has to offer with its specialties and differences. And I'm sure we'll talk about that and the differences in the next couple of minutes.
Great. So, as I said, just the right conversation partner for today. So, I'm going to base this discussion a little bit around a recent study that we've written at the InsurTech Munich in collaboration with the consultancy Roland Berger, a study, Katharina, that you've been also highly involved in. You're one of the interview partners, one of the discussion partners. And in this study, we looked at how will the distribution market change in the coming years? What are we looking at when we say future of insurance distribution 2028? So a future that is not too far away, one that we can still imagine, one where we can see how will the market change. A couple of things that we said around the market is that there is a lot of changes ongoing. Consolidation of the broker market, changing customer expectations, the hype around Gen AI, and all of these forces influence the future of distribution. So my first question to you, Katharina, would be, how do you feel those changes? Which ones are particularly relevant for you in your role?
I would probably start with what I perceive as being the biggest challenge is probably customer behavior, because that basically triggers the changes that we're making in our actual sales environment. And what do I mean with the customer and the behavior? Customer these days are much more informed when they go and see a broker, when they go and see an agent, or when they go online. I guess I'm not telling you any news here, but it makes the sales journal, of course, and the sales journey much more complicated. So, you know, we all probably look back to the days where just the agent was recommending something, and just by purely the recommendation, the customer would say, yeah, that's what I need, I'll do that. It's different these days. You know, they come with first-hand information, the whole transparency that the aggregator market offers, where you can, you know, compare features, prices, okay, depending on how objective this comparison is, but the customers are much more informed. The second part, why this triggers change is more and more customers want a seamless customer journey. They travel through the different touch points. And it's really annoying if you, let's say, you talk to an agent and then you call customer service and you have to start telling the story again and again. And I think we're really at the beginning of serving in these different channels, and that has different qualities and drivers amongst all the different touch points. So that's something I think that's changing a lot.
So that is the changing customer expectations and how you feel them. In the paper, we also talk about the broker and agent landscape. Now, I've put a couple of the strong kind of statements in the paper on the slide here for everybody. One is that a one-size-fits-all approach, so serving all channels with the same products, services, and pricing, will no longer work in the future, will no longer work for the changing customer expectations, but also for the brokers and agents. My question to you is, you combine a number of different channels in your position. What main needs do you see in serving those channels differently, and what are the different needs of the channels?
Okay, I would say that when you look at the different channels coming sort of from a very traditional agent channel that dominates the insurance market still, to the purely online-driven channel, the depth of information in terms of price and services becomes more in depth the more you move towards the online channel, right? And that also answers the question where one size fits all doesn't work. If we put contact information as we use them in an agent channel in the same way online, it probably wouldn't work. The expectation is a different one. In terms of services, I think you need to differentiate products as well, because the comparison about the products and the prices are in a different expectation when the customer goes online. To give you an example, if you add services to your sort of traditional product, the traditional insurance product, of course you have a different price elasticity. And you would need that in order to serve different channels. While an agent probably could still work with I wouldn't say limited number of product, but with more the specialty recommendation that he can offer there. So we are really at the beginning in starting to put different products there. We will come to the complexity of that probably later in a question, because you can already tell it makes it much more difficult in terms of profitability and customer expectation, of course. Yeah. But one size fits all is something we're really at the beginning of building up more. We need to break this up more.
And the paradigm used to be that we don't want to treat the channels differently in insurance because we don't want to cannibalize.
Yes.
Now you really combine from the direct channel to the agents. What challenges arise for you, particularly in your position, to actually move away from this one-size-fits-all?
I think we come to a discussion that says there's an old world and there's a new world, and they contradict each other, right? I mean, there's online, the new world, there's offline, the old world. And yes, we might have this cannibalization impact, but I don't think it's a mass phenomenon. We just want to target, and for us as a Versicherungskammer, that's very important, we want to target different segments. And there are these customers that want to compare. And there are customers who say, I go to the agent my parents went to. There's a whole lot of trust that is hard to reach in an online channel, right? This trust factor when it comes to long-term decisions in terms of insurance. And so I would say, and I, especially with my two roles, being sort of in a direct insurance business as well as having sort of the traditional roles, I'm often asked that question. And I would say, if I look at a year and how many times are we really at a point where we look at, let's say, one contract where the customer wanted to actually finalize this contract online and one with the agent, I could probably count these examples on two hands on how often this happens. It's probably more a psychological and emotional discussion that we are leading here, rather than one that's based on numbers and these actual cases. And anytime when we have these sort of conflicts, we usually find a good way on how to bridge this and say, look, we all want to move forward in terms of customer interaction. So let's focus on that and not on these 2, 3, cases where, online versus agent probably was interacting with the same customer. Yeah.
And we're now at an InsurTech conference, and you already mentioned kind of the old world versus the new world, or the perception of there being an old world versus a new one. Is there a different degree to which technology will impact the different channels? So is it different between the agents, which is said to be the old world, and, for example, the direct channel?
Interesting. I think there's it's an evolutionary process. When it comes to technology and you look at an agent channel, it's probably more B2B directed, meaning how can we enable an agent in order to interact with the customer differently, versus a direct channel that is mainly B2C focused, where you're interacting with the customer. Now, the interesting development right now, especially in the sales channels, we're lacking people who are selling. It's so hard to get the sales force. I think we need to think more about a sales force that's moving from different industry into our industry, because we won't find the all specialized insurance agents anymore. It's getting more and more difficult. So with new sales agents coming in, we need to give them tools that are almost B2C-like, right? Because they are new in the industry. So on the one hand, this technology, B2C, moves more into the B2B arena. And then on the other hand, the B2B tools that we use in terms of broker, we will use more. So I think we come from different angles, but it's merging more towards each other. Yeah.
Interesting. And let's stay with the factor of technology for a little bit. In the paper we mentioned there's an ongoing disaggregation of the value chain and distribution. So InsurTech specialized providers can support insurers in different parts of the distribution journeys. And we put it on the slide here. We even believe that technology will decide over the winners and losers, a smart use of technology. Now, you already talked about how B2C technology will be merging into B2B technology, kind of what that also does with the broker. If we now imagine with technology, only looking at technology, what would be possible in 5 years is my avatar speaks to the insurance avatar, and they negotiate an insurance contract, and there is no person involved anymore. They do all my billing, they do everything for me. It's like my personal avatar secretary that will speak to the Versicherungskammer by an avatar. Looking at this extreme scenario, how do you think the role of the broker and the agent will actually change? Not necessarily if this scenario becomes true, but just looking at the possibility of it.
Okay, so my view on this is not apocalyptic, meaning we will only talk to avatars in 5 years or 10 years down the road. We actually have some research on that shows pretty clearly if customers are willing to accept an avatar or a technology-driven dialogue when it comes to basic questions. For example, what's in the coverage? How do I apply for the coverage? And then when it comes to really consultation processes where you go into decisions, let's say in life insurance that would lead up to the next 20, 25 years, that's where you want to talk to a real person. And it's important that you are very transparent to customers. Okay, this is where you're talking to an avatar, give you basic information up front, being informed, and then you take that knowledge and come up with the last 2, 3 lacking questions that you have for your final decision that are much more complex, and then you go into a personal consultation. Be it a broker, be it an agent, or, for example, also a remote consultation, video conversation that we actually have very good experiences in, even in complex situations where you feel like, you need to sit in front of each other physically in one room. Even these situations are not necessarily anymore the case. You can also do this remotely. But you want the real Esther Prax telling you, this is what I have, or this is what I found is useful, and this is what I would recommend to you when it comes to more complex and probably more life affecting decision that you want to make. So be transparent to customers. Use it for basic upfront questions where probably a consultation of a well-educated consultant is probably not relevant, but then bring your whole experience, your expertise as an agent, as a broker to life in this personal, also digitalized consultation process. Yeah.
Yeah, what I like about this is that in the end, it gives the broker or the agent more time to do the work that they actually, where they come from, really consulting the customer on what is the best solution for them. If we look at the reality of it, using this kind of AI filter before coming to an agent, for example, for the agent to be better informed, we see a lot of resistance. A lot of resistance to open up their data, for example, a lot of resistance to say, I'm going to use all these tools to help me do my job better because I'm scared it's going to take away from my job. How do you manage the transition to this more, let's say, technologically enabled agent or broker?
Yeah, it's probably, again, back to the psychological factor, a trust-building factor. And, I told you my opinion about that. I think it will give us much more time for quality, really relevant consultation. I have to say that we're lacking at some point, to be self-critical, we're still lacking the good cases, For building up trust, you need to make good experiences. So we're still in the trial period of finding these really useful cases that actually solve this sort of felt or perceived conflict that we have. So we're really at the beginning. But I think the transformation needs to be built on trust. And since we will have a factor in the next 5-10 years where we don't have the sales force anymore, so we will have to go and add this pillar of a consultation process to our sort of person-to-person consultation process. I mean, there's just purely by that a need to build this up. So I think this development, this demographic development, will add speed to that process.
And we also say, and it's also on the slide, collaboration is key here. So for example, and I think many people in the room will agree and say, yes, we have the solution, yes, we can help your agents. So there are a lot of startups, insurtechs out there that have the technology, that spend all this time to invest into the technology and build those use cases. But there's oftentimes still a bit of a gap of what is then applied by traditional insurers, and we see this a lot at InsurTech Hub Munich. Yes, there's a lot of collaboration cases, but there still seems to be a little bit of a gap to find those use cases here and there. What are the reasons for this? If the technology is out there, how can you be even stronger in applying the technology?
I think one part of this, or one missing puzzle, or one piece of the puzzle is probably that we speak different languages. I mean, I can even tell from my two roles as being in the direct insurance part and sort of the probably more traditional sales channel part in the health insurance. So you speak different languages. And sometimes we might probably be lost in translation. Plus, I think we as the incumbent insurers, we have these large customer bases and we sit on a lot of data, but probably at some point we're not that ready to bring that data all into one part so we can really take use of it. While a startup, an InsurTech Hub, as many probably here in the audience, have that ability. So it's a matter of bringing the big customer base, the big data parts with this ability together. And I think that's the probably translation part that makes it a little bit more difficult to bring these parts together. Besides regulatory aspects and all this kind of stuff we're all facing. I mean, that's a whole issue we all face. But I think the dynamics and the sort of the part of entry in a possible cooperation are just different parts from where we starting points.
I think difficult, but definitely not impossible. There's a lot of great cases also on your side. I'm looking at the time a little bit. We have a third topic, the platform game, embedded insurance. We have a little bit of time. I just wanted to ask, because this was a highly critical topic. So the promise of embedded insurance, when we wrote the white paper, when we had the conversations, the promise of embedded insurance was seen quite critically, so that it's overstated, that it will work, but only for selected business lines. Maybe your comment or your outlook on this topic as well.
Well, two answers to that. We have some natural examples where you can tell that embedded insured works. One of these parts is, for example, the credit card insurance business, where, for example, we deliver the travel insurance as part of the pricing and the process of the product, of the credit card product, into the bundle. And that's being sold together to customers. I would even go that far. The insurance part is one of the reasons why probably credit cards are still around, because by customers, and we know that from research, this is the expected part. You know, you book something through your credit card and you want assistance services and everything. So that's a very natural progression to have it in one product. That's probably the best case for embedded insurance. Now, when you go through that sort of value chain a little bit further away from where the product and the service are embedded, and you go to a part, let's say, you know, you work with a Firman, which is a large German chain for glasses, and you would add sort of the glass insurance for your pair of glasses, and you just bought this designer glasses, and it's very expensive, and you want to insure them. When it's made easy to connect sort of the insurance product with this other product, that's where it's working out. Problem is, it's just very expensive, unfortunately, still, to sort of hook these processes up with the different sides. But if we find a solution and really find a customer need state-based combination, it's a no-brainer to have windfall profit on that, but it just needs to be easy. And the costs usually, or the cases that I've seen, the costs and the payback is unfortunately not that easy to marry. Yeah.
Great. And then final question, final outlook for the audience and all the insurance innovators in here. Your call to action to everybody for the future of distribution. You know, of course, 3 points are always good to mention because we all can remember 3 points. I think one key is network versus silo. That's something that I would say applies to the external part, so being open in networking sort of with other providers, options that are there to address customers differently, and also internally. I mean, we have different parts of the insurance sort of products, from life, non-life, health. I think also, coming out of these silos and looking holistically at the customer is key. Second part is, make data your driver. We, especially in the direct insurance business, one of our strategic goals, data is the driver for the future. And the third part is a culture one. Live a trial and error mentality. Very hard for us. I mean, insurance is about minimizing risk. And when you try something new in the market, there's a risk of failing. There's a risk of your sales partners and I've had this experience that when you come with an MVP approach and you come to existing channels, they expect you to come with a fully fledged process. You need to learn that trial and error and also the failing part is okay. So that's the cultural part, I would say, those 3 things. Great, and very encouraging words for everybody. Thank you so much, Katharina. It's been a great conversation with you.